Well, the DOGE dividend had my full attention all day. So, of course, that's what I had to ask everybody on X today. I asked whether DOGE sending back $5,000 in a check to every American is either genius or crazy. And here are some of the best responses. One, we'll start out with our coworker, Jason Buttrill, who is one of the head writers for Glenn Beck. He said, bad idea. The entire point is to pay down our debt and balance the budget. Use the money for that instead of long-term effects would be greater. Now, again, that's one viewpoint, and I do like that Jason is throwing that out there. But yeah, kind of, right, Matthew?
Well, I mean, Jason makes a great point. Of course, it's not the point that the people want to hear. But, you know, I think there is a way to do both.
But it wasn't just Jason. I will say a lot of people in our audience are very fiscally conservative, and a lot of people echoed his thoughts. So that's a good one. Valkyrie, though, replied and said that this would be a godsend for the middle class. We are hurting. This would also boost the economy and is needed after all the crap that the previous administration pulled. As long as the plan to clear out our national debt is on track with this distribution of funds, I'm all in. And I think that's a great point as well, because if you're telling me $5,000, I mean, that is a meaningful amount of money to a lot of people in this country right now.
Yes. And so I think that what's key there is, though, if we're on track,
right,
as Jason suggests, to actually rid ourselves of the debt and to significantly cut down the trillions that are mounting. And so I think there are ways you could do this, you know, but you would have to first go back and look at that COVID money. I mean, we already gave a lot of money to a lot of people, and those people should not get, who abuse the system, should not be getting one of these checks, in my opinion.
All the fake PPP loans that went out there.
That was none of that.
That was not good.
Billions of dollars.
Well, now we have the DOGE team on it, so you know, hopefully that wouldn't be as crazy this time around if this does indeed happen. Let's go ahead and have Rod DeRigo round this out. He said, temporary fixes are not the answer. We need sound and consistent policies that include legislation that requires the spending is valid and accountable. We, the people, need to ensure that we elect these representatives that maintain the voters' mandates. And I think that's kind of what we're saying here.
On the mandate?
On the mandate. They need to have the voters' mandate at the forefront. And Congress needs to be the one doing this.
Yeah, so what you want out of all this, you know, taming spending through the executive branch, through DOGE Digital Services and Trump's very wealthy tech support agent, is to get to the point where Congress is shamed and embarrassed and sets up legislative and future budgets, actually passes budgets that then move towards something sensible. And that's the goal of all of this.
Well, and we might be able to tell members of Congress in person ourselves, because we're actually going to be heading to Washington, D.C. Later tonight on a flight. We're gonna hop on there, and it's actually, I think we would win some bets right now if I told people that it was colder in Dallas, Texas than it was in Washington, D.C. That was actually a true fact today, Peterson. So we're going to D.C. to warm up, actually.
Yeah. It sounds crazy, but it's true. I was out there today. I took a nice little walk.
Yeah.
It was a little chilly.
I can't imagine that you went out there. It was like 18 degrees with a wind chill of 0 out there. And Peterson's like, I'm going to go for a really long walk right now.
Reminded me of my childhood days.
Yeah, the Buffalo days. But you know what? When we get out there, it's important not only just have like the new ideas of DOGE, but the new ideas right now that are happening in media as well. Yeah.
So one of the keys that we're going to need everyone who's in government and everyone who's trying to affect change right now to really grasp, and I think they do, but we need to see it develop. And it's going to be cool for you, the audience, to see it develop over the next few years, is that if you are in power in these institutions and you are a reform agent, you are someone who is there to, deeply reform the entire system to create something good, you got to stop using the mainstream media. I mean, it still pains me every time I see one of these guys go onto CNN, right, on MSNBC. I mean, there is a virtue of getting on there and talking to some old lefties, like some geriatric lefty people, but it's dwindling, and they're going to have to watch other stuff anyway. So stop talking to the mainstream press. You have to put that entire prestige factor out of your mind, because more than half the country doesn't give a damn anymore. Like the New York Times does not have the prestige it did, right? And that means that if you are in power, we need those people going to the alternative media universe, continuing what Trump and J.D. Vance started, going on the podcast, coming to outfits like Blaze, going to places where you know they're not there to actively screw and fight you, which is what these other people are doing. And so if we get the administration and all the new things that are happening in this new movement, people start just using alternative media, that's going to create the ecosystem we need, because alternative media can't do it without that, right? The main thing that makes the old school legacy media powerful is that they have access. So they have access to power. And that means that they have very tight relationships with the intelligence agencies, for instance, in this country. That's how they became corrupted. They're joined at the hip, in fact, with the administrative state. But right now, once we take power, right, guess who needs access? All the good guys. All the good guys. And that's the exciting new universe that we are building now. It's in part like why we're going out to DC. That's the new ecosystem that we're building, where you have people in Congress and people throughout the administration who are going to come to new outfits or alternative outfits like Blaze as we grow. And we will make it so that we don't need a mainstream media anymore. That's why it's so important to subscribe, because when you subscribe to us, or even if you just like and follow us on YouTube, what we're doing is actively building in front of you that new media ecosystem that we need, that's actually just going to drop all of the garbage and move society forward. Because you have to drop the radical ideology. You can't be fighting with the media over fake and crazy stuff when there's so much else. There's so many important questions, open-ended questions for us to answer and be grappling with. We have to leave them behind. And that starts with people not going to them for interviews, not giving them leaks, and instead using the right-wing media.
And the Trump administration right now is giving cover to do all of this stuff right now, because what have they done? What do we know? Well, the AP, you aren't going in the Oval Office, you're not going on Air Force One, because they wouldn't go through and say Gulf of America, right? And the Trump administration's like, hey, we have rules here. And even in the White House briefing room, now they have that one rotating seat where they're letting new media in, and it's different podcasts and different influencers that are coming through, because it doesn't have to just be the New York Times and the AP and Reuters anymore. To your point, there are so many more outlets that are out there. And this is the point where the Trump administration actually sees the value in it. Now we just have to keep continuing to push to do it.
That's right. And the Trump administration is leading the way. I mean, they are doing what should have happened last time, what should have happened in the past in many a Republican administration, and saying, no, we're going to let a flood of thousand flowers bloom. We're going to go to all kinds of outlets, all kinds of people. Podcasters are welcome. And what you have to understand is that we all need to just acknowledge that, right? This is the mission. The mission is to ignore the legacy media. They are corrupt. They are fake news. They have failed. And then we build together this new thing by moving in the direction that the Trump administration is already moving. And as we do that, some amazing stuff will evolve. Like there'll be shows that no one's thought of before. There'll be new stars. There'll be all kinds of new ways of delivering news. It's an amazing new world in which we live. It is the beginning of a golden age, but it starts with that mindset. If there's any shred in anyone's mind of, oh, well, this is former New York Times, who cares? Like, who cares? You have to let the past die, drop the entire old world of media behind.
You have to have an actual opposition party. Mm-hmm. That's the key to it. It can't be a uniparty. It can't just be the Bush Republicans that are out there in charge of everything forevermore. No, now at this point in time, there is going to be an opposition. There is a mandate, because we feel the difference and we see in ourselves how good this feeling is, and we can actually go out there and win something.
Oh, yeah. And the media, the new media is part of the mandate. The mandate is about a new culture, a new political system, it's really an old one, going back, refounding to the founding in the Republican form of government. And a new media and culture, that's what we're going to build. That's what we're doing every day.